The girl who vanished. Late 1970s. A quiet American town. The kind of place where neighbors knew each other, where doors were often left unlocked, where children played outside until sunset. But sometimes, the darkest secrets hide in the most peaceful places. One girl, one family's dreams, and a question that remained unanswered for 40 years. What happened to her? Today's story is not just about murder. It's about one of the most powerful forces in human history. Time. Most people believe that time is a criminal's greatest ally. But in this case, time became his worst enemy. This is the story of 40 years of silence, and how a single cocktail stirrer exposed a killer who thought he had escaped justice forever. The last day she was seen, 1979. The end of summer. 17-year-old Sarah woke up that morning believing it would be just another ordinary day. She had big dreams. College. A new life. Travel. A future full of possibilities, according to her family. Sarah was the kind of person who could light up a room with her smile. She was cheerful, kind, and full of life. Her friends admired her. Her parents adored her. Her future seemed bright. That afternoon, she planned to meet with friends. And later that evening, she was supposed to return home. But she never did. At first, nobody panicked. Maybe she was staying at a friend's house. Maybe she forgot to call. Maybe something delayed her. Hours passed. Then night fell. Then morning came. And Sarah was still missing. When her mother finally called the police, she already had a terrible feeling. A feeling every parent fears. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But the police gave the standard response often heard in missing person cases. Teenagers run away sometimes. Give it some time. She'll come back. But Sarah never came back. The first investigation eventually. The police began taking the case seriously. Friends were interviewed. Neighbors were questioned. Witnesses were tracked down. Investigators tried to reconstruct Sarah's final movements, piece by piece, hour by hour. But every lead ended the same way, with questions, not answers. Everyone described Sarah as normal that day. She wasn't upset. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't planning to disappear. So where had she gone? Witnesses reported seeing her earlier that day. But after a certain point, the trail simply vanished. As if she had disappeared into thin air. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. And still, nothing. No suspect. No arrest. No explanation. Only silence. The kind of silence that slowly destroys families. The kind of silence that never lets you sleep at night. The kind of silence that follows you for decades. A family trapped in time. There is something worse than knowing a loved one is dead. Not knowing what happened to them at all. For Sarah's family, every day became a battle between hope and heartbreak. Every ringing telephone made their hearts race. Every knock at the front door sparked a moment of hope. Maybe it was her. Maybe she had finally come home. Maybe there had been some terrible misunderstanding. But it never was. Days became months. Months became years. Years became decades. Yet Sarah's room remained untouched. Her photographs stayed exactly where she had left them. Her favorite books collected dust on the shelves. Her clothes still hung inside the closet, waiting, as if she might walk through the door at any moment. Her mother later admitted that she never stopped looking. Not for a single day. Every unidentified victim found somewhere in the country. Every news report about a missing woman. Every possible lead. She followed them all, because as long as there was no answer, there was still hope. And hope can be both a blessing and a curse. Meanwhile, the police investigation was slowly losing momentum. Detectives retired. Evidence was boxed away. Witnesses moved away. Memories faded. And eventually, Sarah's case received a label feared by every victim's family. Cold case. Two simple words, but they often mean one devastating reality. The trail has gone cold. The chances of solving the crime are fading, and justice may never come. The man who thought he got away with it, while Sarah's family remained trapped in uncertainty. Somewhere else, someone was living a completely different life. A life free from suspicion. A life free from fear. Or so he believed. He had a job. He paid his bills. He attended neighborhood gatherings. He smiled at strangers. He looked like an ordinary man. The kind of person nobody would ever suspect. The kind of person neighbors might describe as friendly, reliable, respectable. But history has taught us something important. Some of the most dangerous secrets are hidden behind the most ordinary faces. If this man was truly responsible, then he had achieved something many killers dream about. He had disappeared into normal life. Years passed. Then decades. No police officers knocked on his door. No reporters asked questions. No courtroom awaited him. As technology evolved, as society changed, as entire generations grew up, he continued living freely. Maybe he believed he had won. Maybe he convinced himself that the past was buried forever. After all, the crime happened more than 40 years ago. The evidence was old. The witnesses were aging. The case file was gathering dust. Who could possibly connect him to a crime committed so long ago? The answer was a technology that barely existed when Sarah disappeared. Chapter 5. A new generation of detectives. The year was now decades removed from the original crime. The world had changed dramatically. Smartphones, the internet, artificial intelligence, DNA databases. Technologies unimaginable when Sarah vanished. And with these advances, a new generation of investigators began revisiting old cases. Cases everyone else had forgotten. Cases labeled unsolvable. Cases abandoned long ago. One detective became particularly interested in Sarah's file. At first glance, there was nothing unusual about it. Thousands of pages, hundreds of interviews, dozens of dead ends, and zero answers. Yet something bothered him. The case felt unfinished, incomplete, like a puzzle missing only one final piece. He began reading every report, every witness statement, every laboratory result, every note written by investigators 40 years earlier, hour after hour, night after night. The deeper he looked, the more convinced he became that the answer was still there, hidden somewhere inside the evidence, waiting to be discovered. Then he asked a simple question, a question that would change everything. What if we tested the evidence again, not using the technology available in 1979, but using the technology available today? Chapter 6. The DNA Revolution. When Sarah disappeared, DNA profiling did not exist as investigators know it today. Back then, many crimes relied heavily on eyewitnesses, confessions, and physical evidence visible to the naked eye. But modern forensic science changed everything. Today, a single microscopic cell can reveal astonishing information. A strand of hair, a drop of saliva, a tiny fragment of skin. All of these can contain a person's unique genetic signature. And unlike fingerprints, DNA can survive for decades under the right conditions. Investigators carefully reopened the evidence storage boxes. Items untouched for years were brought back into the light. Technicians wore gloves, masks, protective clothing. Every precaution was taken because contamination could destroy the entire process. The old evidence was examined piece by piece. Most investigators expected nothing. After all, 40 years is a very long time. But then, something appeared. A usable DNA sample. Tiny, fragile, yet potentially powerful enough to solve a mystery that had haunted an entire family for decades. The sample was sent for advanced testing. Days later, the results confirmed what investigators had hoped for. The DNA was viable. For the first time in 40 years, the case was alive again. And somewhere out there, a killer had no idea the clock had started ticking. Once more, finding DNA was only the beginning. Identifying its owner would be far more difficult. Investigators uploaded the genetic profile into criminal databases. They waited. No match. Nothing. The person they were searching for had never been arrested for a crime serious enough to require DNA collection. At least not officially. The investigation seemed stuck once again, until experts suggested a revolutionary technique: genetic genealogy. A method that had already helped solve several notorious cold cases. Instead of searching for the suspect directly, the technique searches for relatives, distant cousins, great uncles, family connections stretching across generations. Imagine trying to find one person in a crowd of millions, but first identifying their family, then narrowing the search, branch by branch, name by name, until only one person remains. That is exactly what investigators began doing. The process took months. Genealogists built enormous family trees. Thousands of names were examined. Birth certificates, marriage records, death records. Every possible connection was analyzed. Slowly, very slowly, the circle began to shrink. Eventually, several family lines stood out. Then one, and only one. A single individual emerged as a possible match. A man who had never been considered a major suspect. A man who had quietly lived his life for decades. A man who believed his past was safely buried. But investigators were not ready to celebrate. Not yet. Because suspicion is not proof. And proof was exactly what they still needed. The breakthrough was closer than anyone realized. Investigators now had a name, a face, and a strong suspicion. But suspicion alone would never be enough. Not in a court of law. Not after 40 years. They needed undeniable proof. Proof that could connect the man standing before them today to the crime committed decades earlier. So they began watching him. Quietly, carefully, patiently. The suspect had no idea. Every movement was being documented. Every routine was being observed. Investigators followed him from a distance. They watched him leave for work, They watched him visit stores. They watched him meet friends. Day after day, week after week. Nothing unusual happened. The man appeared completely normal, calm, comfortable, unconcerned. Perhaps he truly believed he had escaped justice forever. After all, 40 years had passed. Most killers never expect the past to come knocking after 4 decades. But the investigators knew something he didn't. His freedom now depended on a single mistake. And eventually, everyone makes a mistake. The opportunity came on an ordinary evening, the kind of evening nobody remembers, until it changes history. The suspect visited a restaurant. He ordered food, sat comfortably, and enjoyed his meal. Nothing about the scene seemed important. Customers laughed. Waiters moved between tables. Music played softly in the background. Life carried on as usual. But hidden among the crowd, investigators were watching. Waiting. The suspect eventually ordered a drink, a simple drink. Served with a small plastic cocktail stirrer, he used it, took a few sips, finished his meal, and then, without a second thought, he threw the stirrer away. A meaningless action, at least for him, but for investigators. That tiny piece of plastic was priceless. Once he left, the discarded item was carefully recovered, handled as evidence, protected from contamination, and rushed to the laboratory. Inside the lab, scientists carefully extracted biological material from the stirrer. Microscopic traces of saliva, tiny fragments invisible to the human eye, yet carrying something incredibly powerful: DNA. The suspect's DNA. Now came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The comparison. On one side, DNA recovered from evidence connected to Sarah's case, preserved for more than 40 years. On the other, DNA recovered from the discarded cocktail stirrer. Modern, fresh, directly linked to the suspect. The samples entered the testing process. Investigators waited. Hours felt like days. Days felt like weeks. Everyone understood the importance of the result. If the DNA matched, the mystery was over. If it didn't, 40 years of hope might disappear overnight. Finally, the results arrived. The laboratory scientists reviewed them, then reviewed them again and again, because what they were seeing was extraordinary. The DNA matched. Not partially, not approximately, but with overwhelming certainty. The same genetic profile, the same person, the same man. After 40 years, the evidence had finally spoken, and it spoke loudly. Justice was now only a matter of time. The arrest came quietly. No dramatic chase. No attempt to flee. No Hollywood-style confrontation. Just a normal day. That suddenly became the worst day of the suspect's life. Police officers approached him, identified themselves, and informed him he was under arrest. Witnesses later described the scene as surreal. The man appeared shocked, confused, almost unable to process what was happening. Perhaps he thought there had been a mistake. Perhaps he believed the crime was too old to solve. Perhaps he never imagined that a tiny DNA sample could survive 4 decades. Whatever he believed, reality had finally caught up with him. The handcuffs clicked shut, and with that sound, 40 years of freedom came to an end. Investigators later reflected on the moment. Many had spent years working cold cases. Most never get solved. Most families never receive answers, but this case was different. This time, the victim's voice had finally been heard, through science, through persistence, through evidence. The courtroom filled quickly. Journalists, family members, investigators, curious members of the public. Everyone wanted to witness history. For Sarah's family, the moment felt almost unreal. Many of them had spent decades wondering whether this day would ever come. Now, the man accused of taking Sarah's life sat only a few feet away. The prosecution carefully presented the evidence: the original investigation, the preserved biological material, the genealogy process, the surveillance operation, and finally, the DNA recovered from the cocktail stirrer. Piece by piece, the story unfolded before the jury. The defense challenged aspects of the investigation, as defense attorneys often do. But the DNA evidence proved incredibly difficult to overcome. Science does not forget, even when people do. And in this courtroom, science became the most important witness of all. As the proceedings continued, the emotional weight became impossible to ignore, because this was not simply a legal case. It was 40 years of unanswered questions, 40 years of grief, 40 years of waiting, finally reaching their conclusion. When the case reached its conclusion, Sarah's family experienced emotions that are difficult to describe. Relief, sadness, anger, gratitude, all at once. Because justice, even when achieved, cannot erase pain. It cannot restore lost birthdays, lost holidays, lost opportunities. It cannot return a daughter, a sister, a friend. But it can provide something equally important: the truth. For 40 years, they had lived with uncertainty. Now they finally knew what happened. The nightmare of not knowing was over. One family member later described the feeling as closing a wound that had remained open for decades. The scar would always remain, but at least the wound could finally begin to heal. This case reminds us of something remarkable. Criminals often believe time protects them. They believe memories fade, evidence disappears, witnesses die, and eventually, the world forgets. Sometimes, they're right, but not always, because technology keeps advancing, science keeps improving, and investigators keep working. Cases once considered impossible to solve are now being reopened across the country. Cold cases are becoming active again. Names are being discovered. Secrets are being exposed. And killers who thought they escaped justice are learning a difficult lesson. The past never truly disappears. It waits, quietly, patiently, for the day someone uncovers it. And in this case, that day arrived because of something almost unbelievably small: a discarded cocktail stirrer. One tiny object. One careless mistake. One piece of DNA. And the collapse of a 40-year-old secret. Outra.